versus a new ambulance garage that we have to fund. And if like, if you had to pick one or the other, which serves the county better? And, I mean, which investment benefits the, from, like, 'cause what I mean by service is, like, when you call 911, you want somebody to be there that can help you. Like, which one of these investments facilitates that mission better?
Before you answer that, I have one question. Do we have to have this ambulance building? Is that what I'm understanding, is that
This
we have to have this because we're not in the right location?
Well, here's, when we did the study back in 2013, Mary County paid for a study. So they did, people decided that the best locations to service the area was east of Florida, which we did, up north, and then one out somewhere by Carroll Manor, the Hoosier Heartland, so they could get on the Hoosier Heartland quickly and get up north and south. The issue with this garage is obviously, and I know it's been there a long time, and the chances of something happening are probably pretty slim, but it is right next to the railroad track. So if the railroad rails right here, our crews are gonna be wiped out. I mean, it's not gonna be.
So my question is it mandatory that we have to build a new station? Or
It's not mandatory, no.
Okay.
It's not mandatory, I mean, it's nothing,
Okay,
I mean, this roof's gonna need repaired, there's gonna be, if you don't want to do this, there's gonna be some stuff have to be done to this building. And like, obviously,
I've just been told both ways, that we have to build that station, and then I've been told, no, we do
you
not.
don't have to do anything, so.
Okay,
Well, there's some things we have.
back to this question, yeah, now.
So, to answer your question, I guess it would depend on where you put that station. If you put it out here and you get people, they can get up and down the highways quicker and get north and south a little quicker, you know, that's a big benefit to them. But these lift systems also are, because it's a safety concern. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the back of an ambulance. If you don't get it latched perfectly and you pull back, that thing will slam to the ground. And I've seen that happen. Fortunately, we haven't had it happen to us, but it's a possibility. With the lift system, once you put it in, it locks and it's not going anywhere. So again, that's another safety issue for the patient.
So in terms of fundability, do you have any idea, I mean, if we pivoted and wanted to go to alternative grant options for one or the other, which one would be more grant funded?
I think the building would probably be more fundable too.
As I
Yeah.
say, are we?
Yes, we are.
We are heading
Yeah.
forward on that grant.
Actually, Bill just updated last commission meeting about he's still trying to getting in touch with the Curbsy people, so. We missed the cutoff for the spring portion, and he suggested let's try for the fall portion. So I know Bill's in charge of that, and Bill's working on that.
He's working on getting the grant.
No, he's working on communication with Curbsy to.
Oh, Kirksey's gonna get the grant
For a building grant,
for a bit.
not for a equipment grant.
And I asked the striker dealer about grants for these things. For EMS services, there's just not tons of grants out there. There's AFG grants, which we tried 3 times for monitors and stuff, got denied. Firehouse subs, we tried twice, didn't get anything. Not saying we couldn't try again, but we just haven't had luck. We're not the fire service.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of money is.
So these have already been advertised, and so our vote today is on whether we're paying for this new equipment or not.
When did we
We don't have to.
when did we agree to advertise?
We did it on the American Rescue, the commissioners asked me to do that, so, and Scott and I talked about putting in, because of the broadband, we weren't sure where the money should come from, whether American Rescue or County General, but it is not County General, it's American Rescue. So,
And that's the
you
money
did
that
not
we're
agree to it.
That's what I was
But the
questioning, I
other
didn't
two
know when it
we
was
did.
advertised. Well, I
Or-
know, but I didn't think it'd come to us, did it?
She explained it.
Well, he gave me
Yes, we did.
permission to advertise if I knew where it was coming from,
We did.
so that's why I asked Scott about putting the county general on here. On the corner in Cambridge.
Do we have a process in place for tracking and accounting for these American Rescue requests? And
commissioners, they do have other requests in their folders that they have, that they heard one from Penny. They've had that on file, but she came to the commissioners meeting just like Doug did, and asked to present it. There's a couple others, I think, in the folder, but that's the only thing that we have. We don't have the second installment yet, so they're not gonna be asking for much more this time.
And for information, this money doesn't have to be spent by December 31st, like it normally.
25 or 6.
Yeah, there's a few years.
5.
24, I think it has to be allocated, and 26 spent, I think, something like that.
No, so answer your question.
So, one of the questions is, do we do the American Rescue or the county general?
You could do
I'd like to make a motion to approve the American Rescue for the $232,803.70.
I need a word with you after the meeting.
We have a motion on the floor to take from the American Rescue for ambulance equipment, $232,803.73. Is there a second? Hearing no second, motion dies on the floor. I would like to make a motion to table this for further discussion at the June meeting.
Consider
What?
The American Rescue, they do that.
I mean, it doesn't have to be tabled, it's already advertised, so it's okay. You can run it, whatever, I mean, like, you could request it to be added, I mean, you can do whatever you want.
This motion died.
Well, it died, it wasn't down, it died so much.
It can come back.
And actually, the county general shouldn't even be on there,
Okay.
okay? And I'm gonna explain, so. We were confused about how we were doing the broadband. That's why we decided, Scott and I decided to do the county general. Now, commissioners did not ask for that, they come out of the county general. Excuse me, they wanted it to come out of American Rescue. So, I just wanted to explain myself, why I did it that way.
So was your question, which one you had advertised and that out?
Right.
Because, because you're reverting it, right? Or are you committing this directly from ARP to the
We can't do that, the broadband is a different situation. That's what I'm trying to say.
Your thought process was to advertise this and pay the bill directly out of ARP. Not for it to go from ARP to county general, then
No,
kind of consider.
no.
You were committing these funds.
Just because we didn't know in time to get it advertised.
I understand.
Okay. Can I make a motion to do the autopsy fees for the coroner for $15,000?
You making a motion or asking if you can make a
I'm
motion?
making a motion. Thank you.
Motion to approve autopsy fees.
Is this what we talked about the other week? But did we debate this? Whether we should advertise it or not, and then now it's advertised? I'm just trying to recall.
You agreed to advertise it.
But there was a lengthy debate on this because of the nature of the advertising.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, no,
No, no.
It's fine, I was just making sure this wasn't a new request. This is what we debated.
Well, yeah, and the debate was, we transferred over $3,000 out of autopsy fees to then advertise an additional back into autopsy fees.
Correct.
That was the discussion.
Is there a second?
Yes, Tracy seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Hume Bridge on $310,000. It's stated vehicles for culvert, the culvert crew.
Can't see her.
Yeah, Kat, would you care to address that, please?
Good morning. We have a culvert crew that uses two vehicles, a trailer and a backhoe. One of the vehicles is a 1.5 ton. Cab, flatbed, and the
Trailer and something, I forget.
toolbox is on, to carry all their equipment. And then the other vehicle is a dump truck to pull their trailer with
Jill asked me about that.
backhoe and to bring riprap and stone to their job sites. We're requesting $310,000 to replace the two existing vehicles.
Well, I'm
And we'll move
One,
Did you say
the
a
dump-
one half ton or a one and a half? One and a half.
1.5 ton.
Got it.
One and a half ton.
Gotcha, thank you very much.
And the other was a 3/4 ton.
No, the other one's, no, right now it's,
Single or a can?
it'll go into
I'll make a
the,
correction,
I can't,
because I can't.
have a single.
Put it on the phone this morning.
Place it. The existing single is leaving our fleet, so it's not in good shape.
So, I mean, I've asked this twice, this year, I hate sounding like a broken record, but like, I mean, this was in contemplated budget,
No, it was not.
and like, there's been a request for, and I think approved, I don't think I voted in favor of it, it's like for two brand new trucks, like
Yes.
a month or two ago, two brand new Canyons, is that correct?
That was,
And
it was earlier this year,
Yeah,
yes.
and now we have another 300, so like $600,000 of new vehicles.
Yes. It's an old fleet, and, as Tracy's brought up before, we can spend a whole lot of money in repairs and maintenance, and time, or start replacing the fleet. We lost 3 vehicles last month, so 3 months, out of service. One was an accident, one, the dump fell off of the bed fell off the truck, the chassis, and, the third one is ready to go, so.
So, I
Two.
will, yeah, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Ken. I will interject here. I had opportunity back in March to, spend some time with Kent and Tracy, walk through the lot, look at the fleet that they have. Paul, for all that he did for the county and, his stewardship, was really good at finding used stuff and bringing it in and making it work for a while. It looked good on paper, it made the numbers work, but the reality is, we looked back in March at like rusted out vehicles that they're still using that are not in good shape. And so I really came to the conclusion personally that we're at a spot where don't want to have to do it, but we need to spend some money to update and replace this fleet.
Well, I don't disagree, but how much is that money? And why are we doing it like this?
Yeah, and I will say, and this is, I was ignorant at budget time as well. We kicked around this idea of a 10-year plan, right, at budget time. And we didn't have it defined or didn't understand the definition of that 10-year plan at that time. Working with Kent, walking through, seeing what they've got a spreadsheet built where they wanna, they've got mileage, year, utilization. That is the plan. They're wanting to move some of this out. So to answer your question, and it's a fair question, and it's a question that I ask often myself, why now, why not at budget time? I think it was honestly,
We've already, I'm sorry.
lack of understanding of the plan at budget time.
I feel like if we approve this, we will have approved more than was requested of budget in total. With the two new that we just authorized earlier this year, you shake your head, but I think I can
No,
prove that.
Can't, go ahead and answer that.
No, but like, so.
You know what you
Well,
asked for.
I would
we
appreciate.
requested-
Whoa,
I know, but we didn't
whoa,
get what we
whoa, whoa,
requested
whoa,
for.
Please, sir,
Yeah.
please, sir. Yeah, please do not interrupt me, I'm just finishing and then, thank you. Like, we turned down at budget time the plan. We authorized part of the plan, then by additional, added two more a few months ago, and are now two more, a dump truck and a heavy truck. We said at budget time, like, the current fleet, I think Kent's number was, 20 years was the average.
I think it was 17,
Yeah.
average life, average.
Right. The plan that was presented to us brought that fleet up to a 7-year average. So, I'm not saying that we don't need to increase the quality of the fleet. I'm saying the pace at which we are doing it is concerning to me.
Is there consideration in your mind, Josh, for unforeseen out-of-service events that hinder the department from continuing, and particularly right now, like when we're getting into like heavy road project based on season?
I want all ears for the conversation, because like, at the end of the day, the job of the highway department is to do whatever the mission was for that year, right? I mean, it's so many miles of road, it's like, we have objectives that are measurable for completing what needs to be done in a given year's time. If we're gonna have a conversation about doing more than that, then that is we have to look at how much more are we gonna spend to get how much more. If it's a question of, we gotta spend more to get the same outcomes, I got a lot of questions about that. Or if it's a question about, we're gonna spend more and, get less, then that's really bad, right? So, I mean, what we're not doing as a council is connecting the dots for the taxpayer of, we are investing in this to give you this. And that's the conversation that I wanna, or that's where I would like to take a conversation to.
So the ultimate question I think they both want to know is, through the end of this year, if you do not replace these vehicles, will we not be able to get the work done on your agenda?
The culvert crew, their dump truck is down, it's out of service right now, so they
Is
will
that
get.
one of the three
The three we lost.
that just
No.
happened?
No, that's an addition.
That's an addition.
Please
So-
let me answer the question.
Three last month, one this month. It's, as we mentioned, these are old vehicles, they're,
Back to my question though.
they were purchased at the end of another municipality's service life, so most of them are 20+ years old. And beds themselves, they go out, especially in this climate with salt and the moisture and the rust, so the beds are falling off, the vehicles' engines are well over their service life, and we're trying to keep them on the road. So our mission is to plow all the roads during the winter, so we've got a certain number, we've got 20 districts, so we need 20 trucks to plow those districts. During the spring, summer, fall, we're co-patching, chip and sealing, other type, maintenance items. And we're slightly above last year. I think we're doing about 86 miles worth of chip and seal this year. Last year we did 60. I think on average they did for about 40 miles. So we're trying to get the roads back up to the, up to par for our current year. So right now, we're losing vehicles faster than we can replace them. So that's, so we requested 2 tandems, in a ton and a half. That was like $540,000, I believe. I think $200,000 was approved. So we've been pulling money from our MVH line in order to purchase vehicles. Extra MVH, so we're pushing off money for, paving or chip and sealing additional. In the past, I found that they've been not utilizing that entire fund, so that's our plan now until we can actually get vehicles funded.
Back to my original question. Can you, through the end of this year,
The Culver crew cannot, unless we pull out vehicles from a different line.
Well, and that's my question, I mean, is every single vehicle in service?
That we can have up and running, yes. So we'll take a vehicle out of doing something else and we'll make it, keep the Culver crew running.
so let me ask my question differently, maybe I'm not coming across right. If we don't fund these vehicles, you will not be able to get your annual work done this year up until the new budget system, up until the new year of next year. And then I also have a second part to that. Are all the vehicles you're buying new?
Yes.
Are we looking for used vehicles?
Not at
Not
this
that that's
point.
always the better option.
Not at this
to-
point. Just looking at our fleet,
So you're looking at all new vehicles, and will you be able to get your road work done through the end of this year? To where we could be able to budget and work for new vehicles for next year possibility? And that's a yes or no answer, I think.
it depends on what I'm not gonna get done. So yeah, something will not get done.
There you go. So the answer is yes.
Now, this crew, we need to keep the Culver crew working. So I will move something else into their crew. But something else
So
is
you just
gonna
said you're
stop.
gonna move something else, so.
But something else is gonna not get done because I'm moving it over to the Culver crew.
I mean, it's a big department, there's a lot of equipment, and I mean, if we were a for-profit entity, equipment goes down, we have problems, like, equipment gets moved around, like, that's just the
We're
nature of
actually out of
business.
room at the garage, so we moved a lot of equipment that we're hoping to, auction off up to our in-dot lot, and it's sitting there right now.
I mean, we have had 4 vehicles go down, that should answer this
And a loader-
question,
And a
I
loader
think.
went down.
But that prompts that we need 4 brand new ones?
Well, it goes down and is down forever are two different things.
No, lost 4 vehicles, we lost 4
I had
vehicles.
a vehicle in an accident,
Did insurance not
Right,
cover
but
it?
we have insurance,
insurance covered $30,000,
The value.
the value of the vehicle.
of how much? It was total.
It was totaled.
I know, but what was it a $30,000 vehicle or a $1
No,
million
it was
vehicle?
a $170,000 vehicle. New.
Right. I mean, that's a,
So we're not gonna give them.
Yeah,
No, he just said it was a new one.
no, it was an
No.
old.
It was an old one, okay. But the cost is.
The cost for new is $170,000 for a can. I can go out and get something old and used again, and we'll just continue this,
what,
scenario that we have where vehicles are going out of service constantly.
And we're paying a lot of parts costs, right?
Parts cost and time for.
I would love to have an
maintenance.
in-depth analysis of all this, I would love it.
I mean,
I would love it, I would
And
not love to spend $350,000
I'm not saying we don't
on
need new
whips.
equipment, but
We-
we just
we're-
can't get new
This is not
everything
a-
right off the
So-
bat.
This is not a smart conversation where we can talk about the cost benefit analysis of choice A or choice B. Like, this is just, it's, let's spend $310,000 and we'll have better stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, we could spend more money on any department in this courthouse or outside the courthouse. If we spend more money, they'll have nicer stuff. That's true. But what do we get for that? I mean, that's the conversation that we need to be asking.
What absolutely needs to be replaced, and doesn't need to be replaced, brand spanking new, to keep your crews going, and what needs to get done until the end of this year, until we budget through. and-
Well, if I was just looking at the immediate, I would buy used, but that's what got us into this situation originally. We bought a lot of used equipment instead of buying new, and having a replacement plan of 10 years is what we've come up with. In order to keep this fleet working, we need to replace it about every 10 years.
I would move that we table this conversation,
Second.
until next month. We've got a second. My reasoning is, I'm Kent's rep. I am agreeable to do some more homework, put some more numbers together, come back in a month.
I mean, there are smart conversations here, I mean, I'm not ragging on you, Ken, I'm really not. I wanna have smarter conversations about like, let's look at how many miles of road gets done by the age. So if our fleet is 10 years old, we'll get this many miles done. If it's 20 years old, we'll get this many miles done.
I'm not
If it's
sure-
brand new, we'll get this many miles.
I'm
We
not
could-
sure
we could-
those numbers are
we could ask-
equatable.
Well, we absolutely could. We could look at the age of the fleet over the last 10 years and the number of miles that we did.
Yeah, I love the conversation.
Yeah.
I'd rather have more research and homework put into a decision of hundreds of thousands of dollars than not. And I've been frustrated that that hasn't happened in the past, so I'm willing to do it. Let's table it, we'll go to it.
Yeah.
Got a motion and a second to table.
I want to say for the record, I love your ownership of this, and I think you're doing a tremendous job. And I just want to make better decisions, and then this really is not about you, this is about how we need to approach problems as a council. And so
I'm in
not
agreement with
picking
that.
on you.
I'm in agreement with that, Josh. I am, thank you.
And you know I'm in agreement with it, cause I like plans, I like to see, new, used, I like to see the options, but I don't wanna see our roads not get fixed.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to table the $310,000 additional from Steve Rich. Any further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign, motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
yeah, just let me know.
I got it.
We're moving up on 2 hours, and I have a meeting, so I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn. I know that there's other things that members have asked people to come here today that aren't on the agenda, but like, I got that out of 2 hours, so if no one agrees with me, they can feel free.
I mean, we did ask Soil and Water to come.
Oh, we did not.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I understand.
You have to leave.
Yeah,
Scott-
I mean, it's-
Scott needs to run the meeting.
Well, no, I have a motion on the floor to adjourn.
Motion on the floor to adjourn, do I hear a second? Carried none, motion dies. We will continue the meeting. That brings us to any additional business to come before the council.
I asked Soil and Water to come and explain the grant that she wrote to get an extra, what is it, a money to the county, Rhonda?
And then Josh, you may feel free to contact me.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
I've never sat in an entire council meeting, you guys have an awful lot of information to process. So I really do appreciate the time, and I will be very quick. I've handed you out, some information that is put together. If you wanna pull that out, it's in 3 sections. I will do this very quickly. I will turn the pages so that if you wanted to look at it, that you could. The very first one should have a blue post on it, which is our current contract. The Soil and Water Conservation Office does many grants, and this is our 3rd round of Department of Environmental Management grants that we have received for the watershed of Great Neck Sugar Creek. And we have funded this, like I said, for 3 terms, which is 9 years. And this is the budget that we're working with the current grant. We divide it into tasks, so the budget is a total of $330,000. It does include contract hire, which we hire a watershed coordinator through our office. So we do have some assistance. That money brought to us at the beginning of last year. So our grant runs 21, 2, and 3, so it's a 3-year grant. And within the first 2 months, we allocated all the money, which is Class B is all cost share to the landowners in a 5-county area, and our office is the administrator for all the land. So we have Carroll, Cass, Miami, Howard, and Tippecanoe in the Deer Creek Sugar Creek watershed, and funds go to whatever priorities we desire in that area. And I have to say, most of the funds do come to Carroll County because we have the largest section, and we generate the most interest. So we are very, very busy processing this. This grant was full, I didn't recognize that. They counter offered us and said, there's other grants not as busy in the state, can you use more money? So hence the second small set of pages you have, which is a new contract they wanted us to sign, that will bring in another $108,000 of cost share that we're gonna have to process in the next 3 years. And it also added to our budget for staff, which was our contract hire. But we did include money for district staff, which would be our administrator position. It hasn't been brought up to the level that the district had wanted in the past, and this is a huge workload that we take on. So we did ask the state to try to provide some funding for that. I expected to have that contract in my hand. It is down in the legal department still at the state. So it's been approved by IDEM up through PPA, and they're working on the contract, but we are being contracted for this amount, which brings in funds of $9,500 to the Soil and Water District to use for administrator salary. So we have that, and the last page is, we're putting in a new grant at the end of the year, and it will include funds for that as well. So we're expecting these funds to continue for at least 4 years. What I am asking for support from the council is this is not costing the county any bit of money. We would like the salaried position of the administrator to remain as is, status is with the county. When we come back for budget time, we want to ask for our increases and everything like we always do. But we would like to be able to include something in the salary ordinance to be able to pay out the money we were receiving in this grant for that position. In the past, we have had a merit status on our budgets where we could pay out from that. So if there's a way that we can establish being able to pay out extra funds without affecting our base salary, if I'm explaining that the way I'm thinking, because funds won't last forever. So once they're gone, they're gone. The district will receive that money from IDEM. We should receive it. It can be quarterly, semi-annually, or annually, and then we can present a check to the county to disperse funds in that salary line item. So then once we anticipate the grants will last for a good while, we do have to keep reapplying. But that way, if the funds aren't there, our current base is still established for our administrator, and that's what will be paid out. So I hope I explained that correctly. I know Beth is gonna have a lot of questions on how that's all gonna work, and I know that's a salary ordinance question. It had been proposed, you know, the Soil and Water Office is getting that money, why don't you just write that check well, we can't do that, you can't do that with a salary ordinance, I am a county employee, so I have to follow salary ordinances. So if there's a way that, we can get the county to process that, there is no cost to the county. It's just we are receiving those funds within this grant cycle that we like to use.
All the taxes that come out of there, you would,
We'd have to work that out, because I don't know what that tax base is, so Beth and I would have to sit down and
because
calculate
that's, it
how
would
much
cost
that
the
is.
county if you.
It would cost out of that line item where we would be providing the money to it. So,
And that's about 5,000 a year, or?
okay, at this point with the, 2022, 3, and 4, for the current proposal, it's only $9,500 in funding for all of those 3 years, but this year is going to be pretty much out, because we've already progressed half the year, okay? So it would be for 23 and 24, we're putting the new grant in that would start at the end of this one, and it would generate a higher dollar amount. We haven't got it written yet, the notice of intent is into IDEM, and it is due September 1st, so they're looking at 5,000 extra a year, but whether that gets funded or not, we would have to wait and see.
So you wrote a grant for, which we got about $125,000.
Actually, the grant total is $330,000.
Okay.
We do provide match for that with some county staff time through the 5 counties, and landowners use 25% of that match with cost share projects. So we do match that amount, but the total dollar amount on the one grant was $330,000, and the grant that we have proposed at this time that they have agreed to is $124,993, and we will likely put in another $400,000 grant in September.
So you're wanting the wage to go up on this, when you're talking the salary ordinance, you're wanting the administrative assistant to get
Yes.
that fund, or to get that money?
To get the currently the $9,500 over the next
2
two
years.
calendar years of 23 and 4. So I know it would take time to work this out. If it can't be done this year, it can be done over the next 2 years. But I don't want it to affect the base. If these funds go away, then you're stuck with a salary base that's high.
The salary
So-
ordinance is changeable though, isn't it?
Yeah, we-
Is it like the community corrections grant, if it doesn't go through, then it doesn't get funded either, correct? Is that kind of what it's comparable to?
That sounds right.
Is that comparable to
Beth,
like
does
the
that
community?
make sense to you?
Community corrections, if it doesn't get funded, then that gets,
Community corrections is a grant and it doesn't come through the, I don't.
Is there total salary from the grant?
I don't believe it's even, I think we took it off this last year,
So you'd obviously like
the salary ordinance, because it's a grant. But I will double check that.
because
What
we'd
about
like our
CASA?
status to be
Hers
the
is
same.
different,
Yeah.
because she has, she gets money
Established.
from the county. Community corrections does not.
We're wanting to do an addition,
And
but
she
when that
just
money
wants
goes
another
away,
line
then I want the
there.
base to stay there.
so that's the difference in it, is that.
And I don't know how that would work, so I was needing some help.
The salary ordinance can change.
Sure.
But I'm seeing one of the problems is like she's already halfway through the year.
It can start for 2023, if that's an actual issue, that's all right.
I think this is another one that needs to be taken a look at. And
I just wanna say, does the grant dictate administrator A?
That's what was asked for, was the 9,500.
Okay.
And so what the district does is then you document in quarterly reports, you send down with your invoices, they get paid out, like you pay the watershed coordinator from per bill. So the district would bill the grant and they reimburse us, so the money would be sitting in our account that we would be able to give to the county.
And there's a 5% cap on administrative costs, which I assume would cap that, or no?
There is not a cap on that, it's what we've requested, so, we've requested for our watershed coordinator, which is separate,
Other than that.
and then we've requested for the district, which is for us, and that's what's been approved.
It doesn't, cap doesn't apply.
Is this, not been through this before, is this a norm that we pay people for writing the grants? I mean, I'm not sure why are they
No,
funding?
but that's just the way hers is.
that's just the way this
And
grant
you
is written,
can-
is that the person that is writing the grant is getting additional funds?
Well, and it's, we work with the watershed coordinator, and that's how the grants get written, and it's all the processing, it's a lot of work, and it is the processing, and they do allow for administrative fees, so we have just taken advantage of that.
Yeah, grant writing is,
It is a lot, it's a lot of work.
yeah, for
We,
any
we as
grant.
council
lot of
want,
detail.
want grants written, right? That's what you, your point's interesting. Sounds like this is, to me, exactly what we addressed last month's meeting, how we want the department heads to write grants. Is that, you see it that way?
Yeah, I mean, if money's out there, I want Carroll County to.
And that's our
Try to
view.
That's
get
what
it.
she's done.
We want the county to be able to benefit from these grant dollars.
But I wanna look, yeah, I wanna look at the other side of, is, if somebody else writes a grant,
Grant that Carroll County is going to
That's my
get
concern
or
as well.
spend.
it would have to be a grant that allows administrative fees to be put in the grant. Most grants, I don't think, or some grants do not do that.
And we've used
And
ours.
then that person is gonna want paid to write that grant, but if it's not in the grant, then us as a county, I don't think should be paying people for that. That's my thought.
Well, is that, her stipulation being, isn't that what the grant's saying, that, I mean, there's a
The
specific.
money's there.
The
Yes,
money's
her
there.
grant has an executive, her grant has a fee for the writer,
Right.
built in the grant.
And the administrator.
Some grants will not.
Right,
So the
so
problem
that,
that's
I mean,
gonna
let's don't
arise-
talk about some grants that do not, let's just talk about this grant that does include it in.
I just want it known, I'm just informational, you know me, I like to give information out there that when the next person comes and says, I want paid for this grant,
Well, that's
Well,
what you should too.
yeah,
I think this needs to be looked at. I mean, you're asking me questions, I haven't seen this until right now.
Right.
I mean, this is, it's a change on the salary ordinance,
Yeah.
so I don't think it's something we should.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that
let's
is my
look
only
at it.
question, because the grant is already in process and it's already functioning. This is just what our office does. The 5 on my board, this is what we work with, and those funds are just there, so I'm strictly asking about a salary ordinance update or change.
Yeah,
So-
the grant will not happen.
Oh,
if
the
we
grant will
don't.
definitely happen, and the money is there, so.
I think we table this until we can look at it and then talk about it next month.
Well, do we need to talk about it next month, or do we just need to talk about it at budget time? You said it would be okay to enact this at the
Yeah,
beginning
that
of
would be fine.
twenty-three.
Yeah,
So if we just look at the salary ordinance, when we look at it at budget time anyway,
and the only difference being is how it can work.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's Beth and I could get together and try to figure that out, if we can do that,
So when you come in for your, like, budget hearing,
okay, as long as you're
Sure,
open
that's-
to that.
And that's the differentiation that I noticed, because as you were stating, I don't wanna open that particular can of worms where anybody that writes and receives a grant is expecting compensation for doing such. But if it specifically states administrator pay, that's the separation. Yeah, as part of the grant, then that separates the grant process and compensation process.
thank you.
That works, all right. If you have any questions, you can feel free to contact me. I appreciate your time, and I'm sorry that I kept you this noon.
No, we did that.
Other business makes everybody cringe.
We do have a alcoholic beverage board meeting at noon on Thursday month.
Here.
Whoops, here.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Is there anything from the audience? Is there anything else from the council? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Paul, a second.
They serve drinks at the ABC meeting.
They always do.
I'll stay.
I've checked.
And those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Get up, do it out.
Wow.